That is an objective positive. That is a positive thing for the league. So, if you guys don't know, Fever won the Commissioner's Cup. If you guys do know and are happy, subscribe. We are trying to 52,500 by the end of the night. But anyway, Caitlin Clark celebrated harder than anyone else. She celebrated harder than anyone.
This moment isn't just about critiquing Caitlin Clark or the Indiana Fever. It's a broader indictment of how we view competition and athletic achievement. By arguing that the Fever's victory sums up what's wrong with sports in general, the speaker exposes a deep-seated bias, the tendency to diminish women's accomplishments as symptoms of a flawed system, rather than celebrate them on their own merits. In the context of a blowout over the Minnesota Lynx, this critique hits hard. The Lynx are a storied franchise, yet here they are humbled by a team that until recently was an afterthought. The speaker's suggestion that WNBA struggles mirror sports in general reframes every Caitlin Clark three-pointer, every defensive stop, as a challenge not just to Minnesota, but to the entire athletic establishment. Why does this matter? Because narrative shapes perception. If victories like this are seen as aberrations in a broken system, fans will write off the Fever's dominance as a fluke or an unfair mismatch. But if we accept that the WNBA faces the same growing pains and opportunities as any league, Caitlin's leadership and the team's cohesion gain legitimacy. This reframing demands we ask, are we ready to acknowledge that top-tier women's basketball can produce lopsided victories just as thrilling, painful, and conversation-starting as any NBA blowout?
Drunk or just, that's Caitlin? Or it's just Caitlin being Caitlin, which is ideal, honestly. But let's take a listen to what she said right here, because this is important. I just know everybody in the league is sick.
They're pissed.
Aaliyah Boston, they pissed. Like they.
Here, the camera pans straight to the woman of the hour, Caitlin Clark, reveling in a champagne-soaked celebration. The casual jab, goofy or drunk, underscores how unapologetically she owns the moment. That unfiltered personality is her greatest weapon. When you humiliate a legacy team like the Lynx, it's not enough to outscore them. You have to shake them psychologically too. Caitlin's playful bravado sends a clear signal. Indiana isn't just a Cinderella story, it's the new standard bearer. By leaning into her Caitlin being Caitlin persona, she humanizes herself while simultaneously projecting an aura of untouchable confidence. This matters because sports are as much theater as they are athletic contests. Fans latch onto personalities, and rivals falter under the glare of a star's swagger. In blowing out Minnesota, Caitlin didn't just rack up stats. She made a statement that this isn't a league reserved for legends of the past. It's her playground now. Every time she laughs into the camera or hurls a one-liner, she chips away at the idea that the WNBA must be solemn or subdued. Instead, she invites chaos, invites headlines, and forces every team on their schedule to prepare not just for her jump shot, but for her uncontainable spirit.
Actually, you know what? The Atlanta Dream, they beat them 4 times last year, and 2 of those games were ugly. So that was something. But the Fever have been able to grind out wins. And I think a big reason why they've been able to grind out wins is because of Natasha Howard. Like, in a lot of the Fever's grind out wins, Natasha Howard's been great. And, like, the Fever held the Minnesota Lynx to 59 points without, like... At the same time, look,
Beyond star power lies the true foundation of a dynasty: resilience. Minnesota may have found open looks, but grit turned those into misses. This clip pinpoints a transformation in Indiana's DNA, winning ugly games. Humiliating the Lynx by holding them to 59 points wasn't just about perimeter defense or hot shooting. It was a collective will to outbattle, outscrap, and outhustle. That next player up mentality shifts the narrative. Caitlin Clark can have an off night, but the Fever don't crash. Instead, veterans like Natasha Howard and role players like Arike Ogunbowale from other games step up, smothering Minnesota's rhythm. What's the takeaway? When you handicap yourself relying solely on a transcendent talent, you become one injury or off night away from collapse. Indiana's secret weapon is depth forged in adversity. Those ugly victories build a psychological edge. Minnesota and the rest of the WNBA now know that even if Caitlin struggles, the Fever's standard of physicality and cohesion remains non-negotiable. That breeds a double humiliation, in the box score and in the psyche. The Lynx didn't just lose. They got schooled in how Indy combined star brilliance with blue-collar tenacity to engineer blowouts that sting long after the final buzzer.
Celebrate as much as she can. Let her celebrate. And you've seen other things where it's like, apparently now, during their whole viral celebrations, Sophie, Caitlin, and Lexi pouring, you know the way they were all pouring champagne all over each other? Like, they were all pouring champagne over each other, as you can see. Apparently because they poured champagne on...
This throwaway line tells you everything about today's sports entertainment ecosystem. By immediately pivoting from Indiana's headline, "We won the Commissioner's Cup," to a subscriber plea, the creator underscores how Caitlin Clark's spotlight extends far beyond hardwood highlights. It's no longer enough to celebrate a commanding victory over the Lynx. Every three-pointer, every defensive stand, is funneled into growth metrics: clicks, likes, FOMO, buzz. That cup win becomes both a triumph and a marketing hook. What does this mean for Caitlin Clark's humbling of Minnesota? It shows that her performances are currency in a broader attention economy. Fans don't just watch her break the Lynx. They're asked to lock in for next week's hot takes, to subscribe because this is the moment that matters. The danger here is twofold. First, every big win risks being reduced to clickbait. Caitlin claps back, Lynx shocked. Second, the WNBA's competitive legitimacy can be overshadowed by the personality-driven, algorithm-fueled narrative machine. Yet there's a silver lining. By harnessing that machine, we are trying to hit 52.5K. Caitlin and the Fever indirectly amplify women's basketball. The fences between pure sports analysis and entertainment blur, but the end result is the same: more eyeballs on the WNBA. So when Indiana drubs Minnesota next time, it won't just be a rout on the court, it'll be fodder for a media cycle that can't look away. And that, ultimately, elevates every staple of the league, from rookie bench players to seasoned vets, because they too will ride the crest of Caitlin's tidal wave of engagement.
They were able to basically get their teams together and have their teams so close together because they knew everybody hated them. This coach would have the most absolute hated teams ever. But the difference was that when you're hated and you know you're hated, it can bring your team together.
There's a raw, unfiltered joy in repeating that line twice in a row. This is big. The emphatic tone, lads, blurs the line between locker room banter and passionate fandom. By echoing "the Fever won the Commissioner's Cup" back-to-back, the creator stamps it into our brains. Indiana's dominance is the story of the day. And that dominance didn't happen in a tight squeaker. It was a blowout over Minnesota, a team that traditionally sets the WNBA standard. Why does that matter? Because a rout forces you to confront a shift in power dynamics. You don't remember nail-biters quite the same way you recall utter beatdowns. The clip's staccato repetition makes the cup win feel seismic, a passing of the torch from legacy franchises to a new order built around Caitlin Clark. It's the digital age equivalent of a thunderclap, chi-charged, unignorable, impossible to brush aside. Moreover, the celebration's brevity highlights how quickly sports narratives churn. One moment, Minnesota's storied history dominates headlines. The next, Indiana's surge is the only thing that matters. That volatility breeds fan intensity. What was once taken for granted is seen as under threat. For every Lynx supporter, this clip is a provocation. Did you see what just happened? We're no longer comfortably on top. And for the Fever faithful, it's a mantra. We're here to stay. The duality, celebration and challenge, fuels discussion long after the cameras power down.
The reason why they've been able to grind out wins is because of Natasha Howard. Like, in a lot of the Fever's grind out wins, Natasha Howard's been great. And, the Fever held the Minnesota Lynx to 59 points without, At the same time, look, the Indiana Fever, it's not like the Fever were doing anything unbelievable. Howard did a great job on defense against Fee. But other than that, it's not as if the Lynx just weren't missing open.
Stat stuffers will tell you that lopsided wins hinge on shooting percentages or turnover margins. But holding a team of perennial contenders to under 60 points is a statement of defensive identity. This clip zeroes in on Natasha Howard's lockdown mindset. She isn't merely chasing her own stats. She's corralling the Lynx's high-octane offense into stutters. In basketball, you don't humiliate an opponent by outscoring them alone. You humiliate them by making them feel powerless. And make no mistake, 59 points is powerlessness. Look at Minnesota's roster, a blend of sharpshooters and veteran scorers, capable of lighting up scoreboards in bursts. Yet here they are, stifled by a Fever unit that trusts its stops as much as its buckets. Caitlin Clark may be the face of the franchise, but this victory is grounded in collective buy-in. Players rotate their feet, help devour driving lanes, and rotation traps turn open jumpers into airballs. That defensive ethos changes the tenor of the blowout. It says, "We didn't just outscore you, we deliberately disrupted everything you tried to do." It transforms the narrative from "Indiana got hot" into "Indiana imposed its will." In the long run, other teams watch tape of 59-point performances and recalibrate. They realize that to topple the Fever, they must solve a complex puzzle of schemes and rotations, not just outgun an all-star. And that realization is how humiliation becomes legacy, by forcing opponents to rethink everything they thought they knew about breaking through a stifling wall.
There is the, oh, she didn't play, so it's not a championship. And I'm like, dude, she played. She got them there. She got them there. Like, her impact was basically felt in what she did to get them to the final. Like, she got that team to the final with that win against the New York Liberty. And by the way, she was also exceptional in the win against Connecticut as well. So she was huge in those two wins, getting them to the Commissioner's Cup final.
Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever didn't just win. They sent a shockwave through the sports world, exposing outdated assumptions about women's basketball. By arguing that the Commissioner's Cup blowout sums up what's wrong with sports in general, the commentator highlights how undervaluing elite female athletes is part of a broader cultural blind spot. Yet, far from lamenting this, he calls it an objective positive. Why? Because when a broken system produces performances this dominant, it forces a reckoning. Fans and pundits must choose between dismissing the achievement or elevating the conversation around women's athletics. This dichotomy matters for Minnesota and the Lynx. Traditionally, they've occupied the WNBA's upper echelon, yet they were dismantled by a Fever squad that thrives on chaos and confidence. By reframing that chaos as proof of systemic growth rather than a fluke, the narrative shifts. We stop asking, "Is this real basketball?" and start asking, "How do we adapt to beat them?" This change in mindset benefits the whole league. Rival teams invest in depth, coaching, and analytics to chase Indiana's blueprint. Ultimately, labeling this upset as positive acknowledges that the WNBA isn't a sideshow. It's a proving ground for world-class competition. And when the Lynx regroup, they'll do so knowing that a new standard has been set, one they must match or risk falling further behind.
As a free agent is going to be like, I want to be there. Because let's be real. Let's be real. If teams hate you and you are beating them, if a team gives their best effort and you are still beating them, and by the way, like, I think the Lynx just didn't show up yesterday. I think the Fever weren't good, but you know what? The Fever have found a way to win ugly games. And as long as they can stop choking away leads, I guess the one problem right now is they need to stop choking away leads.
There's real power in repetition. By stating the Fever won the Commissioner's Cup twice before even hinting at Caitlin Clark's comments, the creator cements the magnitude of this victory. It isn't a close call or a nail-biter. It's a statement game, one that demands your full attention. Then, without missing a beat, he zeroes in on Clark's post-game persona, unpredictable, irreverent, unapologetically herself. That duality, dominant performance paired with genuine vulnerability, turns headlines into must-see TV. For the Lynx, this is especially galling. They're used to being the narrative's architects, legendary defenders, sharpshooting threats, clutch performers. But here, they're relegated to the supporting cast in Clark's spontaneous spectacle. Her goofy or drunk energy isn't mere theatrics, it's a strategic play. It unsettles opponents, galvanizes teammates, and fuels social media wildfire. Minnesota's veterans must now prepare for more than scouting reports. They have to guard against Clark's psyche games, the unexpected quip, the off-camera celebrations, the electric, unfiltered moments that turn a basketball court into her personal stage. That's the new challenge the Lynx face. reclaiming competitive focus in a league where the biggest star sets her own rules.
Like, it's not like their backup point guards are as hungry as Ari McDonald is right now. It's not. And like, when she's able to back up Caitlin, it's gonna be even scarier. It's gonna be even scarier because, again, if Caitlin's having her good games, it means if Caitlin's having a bad game, because let's be real, Caitlin at her best can win you a game against anyone. Caitlin at her worst can lose you a game against anyone. And again, I say that like because it is a fact. That is a fact. The little bit, like, Caitlin, everything she kind of does is in runs. So at the end of the day, it means that instead of having to play Caitlin 35 minutes and when she's not playing well, playing her off the ball, you can play her 28 minutes.
Numbers tell part of the story. Blowouts, shooting splits, turnover margins, but Wayne Grit tells the rest. Holding Minnesota to 59 points isn't just stellar defense, it's a statement of collective resolve. Here, the spotlight shifts from Clark's highlight reel threes to Natasha Howard's relentless rotations, help defense angles, and post discipline. In every ugly quarter, Howard's physicality set the tone, setting firm screens, contesting every mid-range jumper, and corralling rebounds on both ends. That consistency matters more than a single superstar performance. When the Lynx attempted to rally, Howard's presence in the paint erased second-chance points and cramped driving lanes. Indiana's blueprint becomes clear. Unleash Clark's offensive genius, but anchor the game on a defensive backbone built by veterans like Howard. For Minnesota, watching this unfold is a wake-up call. They can't simply outscore the Fever, they must match their tenacity. And yet, Howard's quiet dominance in the trenches suggests that the real humiliation isn't the final score, it's being out-hustled in every single phase. When the Lynx break down this film, they'll see that to topple Indy, they first have to break Howard's iron will. Alright, let's wrap this up. And trust me, I'm not pulling any punches. Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever didn't just humiliate the Minnesota Lynx with a blowout, they rewrote the WNBA script mid-season. This wasn't a one-off hot shooting night or lucky defensive break. It was a complete statement of identity. A franchise unified around one transcendent talent and an unshakable defensive core. Clark's on-court wizardry combined with Natasha Howard's blue-collar ferocity created a 1-2 punch that the Lynx simply had no answer for. But here's where it gets spicy. I want you to decide. Did Minnesota lose because they were out-talented, out-prepared, or out-coached? Or is this a symptom of a deeper shift in women's basketball, where the old powers must adapt, or risk becoming irrelevant? The Fever's style blends superstar flair with unglamorous grit, and that hybrid is lethal. If you're a Lynx fan, do you double down on veteran savviness, or tear down your roster and rebuild around speed, length, and identity? And if you're a neutral, do you view this as the dawn of a new dynasty, or merely the peak of a shooting hot streak? Here's another provocative thought. What if Caitlin Clark isn't the main villain here? What if it's complacency? Minnesota has championship pedigree, name recognition, and a devoted fan base. Yet, in this game, they played like a team surprised to find itself on the wrong end of a route. Is there room in the WNBA for stoic tradition? Or must every franchise innovate like the Fever just did? Because make no mistake, every single bench player, every assistant coach, every analytics department in the league is feverishly studying this performance as I type. Now I want your hot takes. Is the Lynx collapse a single bad night or the beginning of a downward spiral? Should Minnesota shake up their coaching staff or double down on veteran leadership? Does the WNBA truly embrace female superstars, or are we still stuck in outdated comfort zones? And most importantly, will any team beat this Fever squad before the playoffs? Or is Indiana on track for a historic run? Sound off in the comments below. Be bold, be controversial, be different. If you're tired of safe takes and sugar-coated analysis, drop your most unfiltered opinion right now. Because this isn't just a game recap, it's a chess match for the future of women's basketball, and your move could be the one that changes everything. Don't hold back. Let's get into it.